class of personal finance at the Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. Now I'm going to try to start the Zoom. See if I can start the Zoom. I am connected to the computer. Okay, do we have any Zoomers? Man, the last class we had so many people on Zoom and 4 people in the classroom. So today it's different. This session is different. Okay, what we're going to do today is bargaining and negotiating. You can see that there. I'm going to open my... How's everybody doing? Surviving? On a day like today? Hey, Ashley, do I get to have you in here again? Awesome. You're just hanging out, huh? She's my star student from 10 a.m. Okay, I'm going to begin. I don't see anybody coming into Zoom. Oh, there we have one. Last class, Zoom was so full. Can you hear me? Let's see. Olivia, can you hear me? You can chat in if you'd like. Hey, welcome. So today we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. The last session, we spent some time talking about student questions. I want to make sure that we're on the same page about making sure that your questions get answered. So we probably ought to spend a few minutes doing that today. So we'll talk about student questions, your questions, how they get answered, how they get dealt with. And number 2, I'm going to do a little review or preview of what's coming in the class. I guess I should get rid of that little thing right there. And I'll get rid of this little thing right there. And we'll go to that. Man, I forget what you guys can see up there on the screen. That's weird. Is that distracting? You want me to? Okay, good. What is this? Is that better? Maybe? Okay, let's roll. So we're going to do 3 things. One, we're going to talk about questions. I've got some questions that students have submitted. I want to make sure we answer those questions and just have a conversation about questions moving forward. Number 2, I'm going to do a quick preview of what's coming. And then we're going to talk about today's lesson, which is bargaining and negotiating. So which would you like to start with? You got 3 options. We talk about questions, deal with those, get them out of the way, do the preview for what's coming, or we jump right into the lesson and do the other stuff at the end. You get to vote. Questions? Questions? Okay, I see 3 questions. Any abstain? Any pushback? No pushback? So we'll go to student questions. So what I've done is I've started to kind of keep a list of questions. And I want to make sure that I answer those questions. But as we jump into this, I'm going to show you some of the questions I got this week. I got a lot of questions this week, and I tried to answer them. Some of the questions I need to deal with here in class. So if you were one of the students who had questions and I emailed you back and said, let's talk about it in class. Was that any of you? Any of you? How about on Zoom? I don't see anyone on Zoom except Olivia. Can you hear me, Olivia? Will you chat in and say yes or no or speak up? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so Olivia can hear me, so we're good. So what I did this morning and I want to do with you guys is have an expectations conversation about your questions. So I want to make sure that I understand what you expect from me when it comes to questions. Okay? So when it comes to your questions, what are some of your expectations from me? Everybody don't say at the same time. Man, I'm having trouble here. Your expectations. If you have a question about this course, about one of your assignments, what do you expect from me?
A response within at least like 2 days before the assignment's due.
Okay, so 2-day response. Oh, 2 days before the assignment's
So
due.
if we have a question about the assignment, for example, so we have some time to work with.
So a timely response. That's a little nebulous, but earlier this morning they said a 24-hour response. So here's the problem. Tell me your name, I'm sorry. Ethan, thank you. So Ethan says timely response. If you have a question early in the week, you want to know 2 days before the assignment's due, was I think what you said, which sounds good, but that's a little, that's like a little difficult in terms of, operational delivery.
Like if I had a question, for example, Friday or something, I would want one at least before.
Yes, so you see the problem though. Let's say your question comes in Friday at noon and you have to turn your assignment in Friday at 3 p.m. to get the extra points. Your expectation is that I get back with you between Friday at noon and Friday at 3 p.m.
Well, we can turn in the assignment at Friday at 2, example, and then you'll get back to the
Yeah.
and resubmit it.
Thank you, Ethan. So that's a great question. I'm trying to make sure that I can meet your expectations. That's why I'm unpacking it. But Ethan just reminded me, and this is really helpful for everybody, that if you turn your assignment, if you have a question, like Ethan's scenario is he has a question, he sends it to me, I said at noon. He needs that so he can turn the assignment in early and get the extra points. But Ethan reminded me, no, that doesn't really matter because I can turn it in Friday at 2 o'clock. And if it's missing something, it's my responsibility to tell you what it's missing. And then it's your responsibility to fix it. But my commitment to you is you're still going to get the extra points if you turn it in before Tuesday at 10 a.m. So that doesn't really answer our question, what do you expect in terms of timeliness? Earlier they said 24 hours. So is that okay? Because, I mean, not okay?
No, because not enough time.
Not enough time? So what would you expect?
Like you mentioned, 2 days at least, or at least 2 days.
2 days. So 2 days before what?
Well, understanding that, like, if you ask a question at Monday at 10 o'clock p.m., that you're probably not going to get back to us before the assignment's due.
Yeah.
You respond in the morning of Tuesday. Like, 2 days, if you ask, trying to get the assignment done before last minute. If it's a last minute question, then I can understand, like, they want a timely response within, like, a day. But at that point, you're already asking, like, very late into the assignment.
Yeah, that's kind of the key. So if you're asking for 2 days before the assignment, is that what you're saying? Your expectation is 2 days. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, I think, if it was like 3 days or more, it would be better, but I don't think that's your expectation because the assignment's almost due.
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you're expecting from me. If you have a question, you email me.
Right.
You're saying I have 2 days to get back to you?
No, I'm saying that before turning in the assignment. So, like, if I have a question like 2 days before the assignment, I expect the next day you respond.
So a 24-hour response. I mean, put yourself in my shoes. I want to make sure I understand your expectation. And when we talk about in relation to the due date, I don't know how I can meet your expectations if you want me, I don't know what that expectation is. I mean, the due date is the due date. If you have a question and you ask it at 1 o'clock in the morning, the due date's 10 a.m., I ain't going to get an answer, right? I'm not going to answer that. I mean, if you're telling me that's what you expect, I'm telling you, I can't do that.
I think what he's saying is, like, for questions earlier in the week, we want at least 2 days. But if it's a last minute question, we understand.
Yeah, well, I get that. But if you're asking a question and you want me to answer it, if I answer it within 24 hours and it happens to be 1 day before the due date, hopefully I've met your expectation.
Yeah, once we're in like the crunch time of we're coming up on
Yeah.
the due date, then it's like hopefully can we get within
Well, and
24 hours.
and all I'm saying is if you ask your question 3 days before and I get back with you in 24 hours, that's 2 days before. That's gold. That works. But if it's, 1 day before and I get back to you 24 hours, I'm saying if you have a different expectation, I need to know about it. Because the 24-hour expectation is one thing, but if you're saying you want a conditional response related to the due date, help me understand what you want.
In that case, they would probably want something 9 o'clock or at least 9 p.m. before the due date of the day before, if that makes sense. So like Monday at 9 o'clock, Tuesday at 10.
So how do your other professors deal with that? Do they have like a set time that they answer questions on a weekly basis, or is there something that you see that you like that works that I might adopt?
They tell us to make an appointment for office hours.
And they meet you?
Yes.
They're pretty easy, accessible? Well, they're not adjuncts though, right? They're faculty. Like I'm an adjunct, so I have a job, a business.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I do appointments, I'll meet with you, but I'm not available all through the week because I have a business to run. But I want to answer your questions. So I want to make sure I'm meeting your expectations on that. So I'm going to say 24 hours, and then I'm going to just try to figure out what that looks like in terms of if you have a question that you want to ask, like within the 24 hours leading up to the assignment. I think what I'll do is just try to commit to, clearing out my queue, look for questions leading up to the assignment for the students who are just now getting around to it. But I'm going to encourage you, like I have from the beginning, to submit your assignment, set your due date, your calendar reminder to do the assignments by Friday at 3 p.m. so that we're not working on urgency, right? That's the solution in my opinion, but I'm still going to try to do my best. If you have a question within 24 hours of the due date, but Ethan had hit the nail on the head in my opinion, is turn it in by Friday at 3 p.m. And even if you think you might be missing something, take advantage of my offer to say, hey, this is how you're going to get some feedback and you're going to get the grace period for the extra 10 points. Right? Does that make sense? I think it's a great solution. Which I feel like Donald Trump. It's a great solution I came up with. Sorry, I just had to say that. I see your face. I understand.
No. I'm thinking actually, completely opposite. I think it's not anything wrong with it, honestly.
Good. I think it works, but again, a lot of students who have some questions aren't taking advantage of it, and it's putting me in a position where we have to have this conversation.
I'm actually thinking, what's with the students that don't finish? They want to rush themselves and rush.
Yeah.
To answer everything.
If it weren't for the last minute, nothing would get done at college campuses. So anyway, any other expectations? A timely response? Anything else? Speak up if you have a comment on Zoom or in Facebook, YouTube.
That's something that would help them for like the last minute things you said. If you haven't asked a question by 8 o'clock Monday night, then you're not going to get a response from me. Because then at that point, that's really last minute for you.
Yeah. Well, Ethan, that's a good point. And I'll just say for the record that if you haven't emailed me by 5 p.m. the day before, don't expect a response. Because when I leave my office, essentially I'm turning off my computer, having dinner with my wife, going for a walk with Lucy, my dog, and watching some Netflix. Yellowstone is actually in Peacock, but anyway, you see what I'm saying? Doesn't mean I won't get back to you. I'm just saying my expectation is that you get your question to me by, in fact, I'm going to make some expectations that I have for you, and that is the 5 p.m. rule, which is just what I said. If you don't get me your question before not at 5 p.m. I punch out at 5 p.m. usually. Does that make sense? So that's my expectations. That's one of them. Any other expectations for you? Thank you, Ethan. That was a good suggestion. So these are my expectations. You have another expectation? Surely you do. That's only one. Timely response, 24 hours. And that was helpful. I appreciate it. But I'm sure you have some other.
It's not really an expectation mode. It's a question. So for the BayRock thing, I'm not sure because you said earlier a couple weeks ago how you had to update.
Yep, moving content from one platform to another platform.
Yeah, so like the data cards that you were saying on the assignment.
Oh,
I didn't see those.
okay.
So for example, it was like for your car note data card.
Yep. We'll get to that, Ethan. Can we put that one on hold? So Ethan's question is about having access to all the data cards, the tabs, and if you did not enroll, if you didn't register your BayRock portal before this week, you didn't have access to all the data cards. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But right now I'm asking you if you have any other expectations in terms of how I handle your questions for this course, because I want to be clear and make sure that I'm meeting your expectations.
Okay, then I could say if we ask a question and then say your answer is something where it's like it answers the question per se, but for my case with the data cards, if I didn't have access to the data cards and say you weren't able to fix my data card situation, then like that's not held against us when like we turn the assignment.
Okay.
So like if say it wasn't updated for us and we registered beforehand and then we ask you about it and then it doesn't come in time for the assignment, for example, and then we don't have that there's no penalty for on our end.
So I'm going to say no penalty if I'm late. If you ask a question and I don't answer your question in time.
The expectations that you have of us.
Right.
5 p.m.
Right. Perfect. So I like that. Your expectation is that if I don't answer your question in a timely way and give you an answer, then I don't have the right to penalize you for not meeting that piece of information in your assignment. Does that make sense? That's a good one. Okay, good. That makes sense to me. If I haven't given you the information in time for your assignment, then I don't have the right to hold it against you and penalize you in the assignment. I see a question there. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Any other expectations? Those are two good ones. Ashley, do you have anything you might want to say? If you were going to answer this question and say, well, as a student in your course, if I have a question, I do have an expectation that you blank. See, that's why she's one of my favorite of all time. It's not just that beautiful smile, clarity. So I'm going to say, you expect me to be clear when I answer your question. That makes, yes.
I feel like this past assignment for the chapter 6, I was very confused on what to do because like I didn't know where to start. But the video that you put with the chapter explaining like what to do.
Yeah. Good. Tell me your name. I'm sorry. Angie. So Angie has a great comment. She said that this week's assignment was very confusing. And when you read the instructions, it is confusing. And so I did a tutorial video to help show you as I'm doing it what I was looking for. And that video, Angie said, was very helpful. I think the problem, and it's my problem, is that I didn't get that information to you in your money study group at the same time I posted the assignment. Would you say that's true, Angie?
I just checked my study group and I saw the video of like the tutorial and I watched the whole 30-minute video and like I used for like from this place.
Yeah.
And then I read back the instructions and it made more sense because you mentioned the names that you were looking for.
Yeah.
And like she's looking at the invite, so I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for.
Cool. cool. So you're talking about the names, the upper tabs, the lower tabs. That video was helpful. Okay, so that's good. I got that. That's not really an expectation, is it, or is it? I mean,
Some we did priority because instructions were not as clear. I had a hard time also trying to understand what I had to be done. But like she said, like the video was like the key, honestly, to make the whole assignment. And I think a lot of students were talking about that it was about the instructions.
and were they talking about that in GroupMe? Because I haven't been spying on you guys in GroupMe, by the way. Remember, I asked for a volunteer to be the mediator, to be the person who tells me when there's something being discussed in GroupMe that requires an answer that I don't know about. Right now, I don't know because I'm not jumping into GroupMe. So are you saying that that conversation was happening in GroupMe? I'm sorry, I missed it.
No. How could you know?
And I feel like a lot of people get confused still in the class discussion.
On the what?
On the class discussion, because like they will put like the class discussion on one tab, and the other part of the people will put like the class discussion on the other part.
Yeah.
And I remember the class discussion question was, "What did you learn?" And some people were saying like, "Credit. That is how you use credit cards." And the other part was like, "This is what
Yeah.
I learned."
Yeah.
So a lot of people are just confused, and I get confused too.
Well,
I was like, "What do I use?"
let me just tell you on the class discussion where you're basically grabbing a screenshot for your class collaboration, I think this falls under the no penalty if I'm late. I'd say no penalty if I'm not clear. And in this case, because of the platform, I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I'll tell you this. As long as you're giving me a screenshot where you did discuss one of any of the things in there, I'm giving you full credit. So don't worry about that is what I'm saying is I'll fix it once I figure it out. I just haven't, it's a new platform for me. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, Angie, but don't worry about it because you're all doing an awesome job doing the class collaboration, the commenting, and you're grabbing screenshots and putting them into your assignment. And that's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking to see, did you comment on the right thing in the right place? It doesn't, I just want to see you guys participating, exactly. So it's just one way of me making sure you're participating. You won't be penalized. You'll get all 200 points. In fact, I'll just say this. If you're getting all the points for your assignments, you have nothing to worry about at the end of the semester for the full 200 points that you'll get for class collaboration or class participation. What? Okay, anything else? Any other expectations? Yes.
It's not actually an expectation, it's just a question. When the course is like over, will we still have access to BayRock and Munchbach?
That's a great question. Tell me your name. Ruth asked the question, when the course is over, will you still have access to BayRock and the planning portal? And I hope that you find it helpful and useful. You will absolutely have access to it if you want it, but you'll have to tell me so that I can move you from my student category to something else that doesn't get deleted. Because I typically go through and delete all my students before we do the next enrollment and the next cohort. So yes, absolutely, I'm happy to let you have access to that. At some point, when you get a job and you start making money and you're using that portal and we're working together, then there'll be some kind of arrangement where you'll be approached for some kind of payment. It's an expensive platform, but it's made available for you in the course. I'll make it available for you for free for an undetermined amount of time. I'm just not saying for life. Does that make sense? So, but you're going to have to let me know at the end of the course, say, I want to keep this, and I'll move you to another category, and you'll be able to keep access to it. Yes? Did you have a question? No? So thanks for asking. I'm sorry? That is specifically, Angie's question is, does that include BayRock, the planning portal? And that's specifically what we're talking about. The course content, once you're enrolled in that, you'll have that forever, as long as that course is held on that platform. So you won't, I don't delete you from Money Study Group. You'll always have that. But the portal, the planning portal at BayRock, I generally delete you from. So I will let me know if you want to stay, and I'll make sure you get to keep that. Great. Any other expectations? We've got 3. That's a pretty good number. Going once, going twice. Now it's my turn. Now I want to give you my expectations for you. When it comes to your questions, I have a few expectations that I think are reasonable, and I'd like to make sure you know what they are so that you can meet my expectations. I don't want to get sassy with anyone. I'll try not to do that. Right, Ashley? We talked about being sassy this morning. So I like the first one, the 5 p.m. rule. I expect that you give me your question before 5 o'clock on the day the assignment is due. If you don't do that, you have no expectation from me that I get back to you in time to answer your question. So that's a good one, I think. Number 2, I call this the Ashley rule. Ashley, do you want to explain it? You don't have to if you don't want to. Just say not really. Okay, great. So Ashley, from my earlier classes in the room, doing a little studying, and I continue to pick on her. So she answered the question about the Ashley rule. Since it's named after Ashley, I thought it was appropriate. And this is basically, let me repeat what she said so that those of you on Facebook and YouTube and Zoom can hear it. She said, when you send a question in, it's really helpful to send an attachment. And typically, the Ashley rule means, this is what Ashley did. She submitted a question, and she said, Professor Munchbach, I'm getting ready to work on assignment number 6, week number 6, the Credit Crush assignment. But I want to make sure that I did week 5 correctly because I know that week number 6 builds on week number 5. So brilliant question. And then she did something that I really helped me create the Ashley rule. The rule is, my expectation is, Ashley set the table. She helped me by attaching her assignment. So when she sent me the question, she said, I've attached my week 5 assignment. So the reason that's critical for you, the reason you need to know that is because I have a business. I'm out and about. I may be walking my dog Lucy, driving my motorcycle, working with a client in a meeting and between meetings. There's no telling where I'm going to be when I get done here. This is not my full-time profession. I'm an adjunct professor. But I want to meet your expectations. I want to exceed your expectations. And one way to do that is to communicate with you and answer your questions. And what Ashley did for me is she helped me understand that there's a much better way for you to ask questions, and I call it the Ashley rule. She attached her assignment. And her question was, did I do the assignment correctly? Are there any things that are going to prevent me from really nailing week number 6? And so she attached her assignment, and I was able to open it on my iPhone and answer her question like almost immediately. So by being able to just grab that attachment and open on my iPhone, I could be anywhere. I could be in between meetings. I could be at lunch. I could be walking my dog, and I could answer her question. As opposed to many of the questions I've been getting, which are not clear. They don't tell me specifically what the question is. I've gotten this question multiple times. This is the question. Are you ready for it? Wait for it. I'm confused about this week's assignment. What would you do with that question? I'm telling you it doesn't meet my expectations, so therefore I'm not sure. If I reply to it, I'm probably going to be sassy. And I'm probably going to hurt your feelings, so I don't want to do that. So help me with that, okay? Meet my expectation. Be clear. Send me enough information so that I can actually answer your question. And I'll do my best to answer your question. So I have one more assignment, or one more expectation. And Ethan, I hope this one helps. My expectation is that you don't email questions that I've answered. So what do I mean by that? Ethan, I'm not going to pick on you, but I'm going to bring up this question right here, which another student had, which is, the question was, I am not seeing the tabs in my plan that you have in the video. Does that make sense? So this is what this student was seeing in their plan. Thankfully, they sent me a screenshot so that I knew exactly what the question was. Excuse me. So does anybody know the answer to this question? Ethan.
I think that they didn't sign up in time.
Right. Yeah. So if you waited until this assignment, week number 6, the Credit Crush assignment, was assigned, and then you watched the video and you saw what you were going to have to do, and then you went in and said, oh, I better register at the BayRock portal and set up my financial planning portal. If you waited until then to do that, my team had already gone in and made the adjustments. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So when I go to the BayRock, when I log in as the administrator here, and I go to Billy, I'm going to go to Billy's plan, and I go to Client Access, you see all of those check marks? Those check marks are not in your planning portal when you set it up. There's only like 3 of them. In fact, there's only the dashboard, the profile, and those 3 tabs underneath it. So until you hit complete, till you set it up, remember when you set up your first data cards, there were 6 of them, and you added your name, your birthday, your goals, your income. Remember that part? Very beginning. And then you hit complete. After you do that, then my team has to go in and we actually update your planning portal so that you have access to all of these tabs, which you absolutely needed in this week's assignment. And so what I announced for 2 weeks now is that if you wait until week 6 to set up your portal, you won't have access. And I'm not going to be able to fix that. I'm telling you, I'm not going to fix that. In other words, I'm warning you, pay attention, do what I'm saying, because this is how it's going to impact you if you don't listen, if you don't show up and do what you need to do in this course. So your expectation for number 2, that I don't penalize you if I'm late in giving you an answer, it gets voided if I've announced it in class. Okay, so I announced this from the beginning, but I announced it twice in a very clear way, warning you. So if you didn't heed my warning, I'm saying my expectation for number 3 is don't even send me an email. If you ask that question and group me, because if you send me that email, I'm going to make a mental note. A, you're not paying attention. B, you're not keeping up. And C, it might be time for you to think about withdrawing from the class. Because you're behind, because you're not paying attention, because you're not doing the work. Is that fair? So that's my expectation, that you pay attention. I'm going to warn you. I'm going to be as clear and dramatic as I can be to help you know the things you absolutely have to do, and this was one of them. Moving forward, I'm going to go ahead now, unless you have any questions, I'm going to just cover a couple of questions that I received this week. Earlier, this morning's class, one of their expectations, which I think was a good one, which I want to add, I'm going to make a list of expectations. I'll send it out. I'll post it in Money Study Group. I think this would be a good lesson or piece of lesson for future for the class, so I'm going to do that. But one of theirs was, I'll just show you what they were if I didn't erase them. So provide clarity. So this one, I thought this was a good one. Sane said this was an expectation. He said, you review all of our assignments on Friday, right? I'm like, yes, I do. I review all of your assignments on Friday because those are the ones I pay the most attention to. He said, well, if that's the case, if you see us making the same mistake My expectation, he said, is that you give us some feedback and tell us what we're missing if it's a common mistake. I'm like, dude, that's exactly right. And so I've done that in the past. I try to do that every week. If it's a common mistake, I assume that I wasn't clear or I didn't give you good information. So his expectation was when I review your assignments on Friday, for those of you who have done your assignment early, that I'll go ahead and do a tutorial to address any common mistakes you're making. Does that make sense? I like that when I'm going to add it to the list of things that you can expect from me. And so I will do that moving forward as we jump into, the future assignments. You're going to want and need to have those videos so you can see how to do it, so you're not confused, so you're not wasting time thinking about how do I fiddle with my portfolio or my financial plan. Okay, any questions, any comments, any additions for expectations, or are we ready to move on? Ashley, did you Angie, right? Did you have a question? Oh, you were just waving. Okay, you moved your hand, sorry. So no comments, no questions, no additional expectations. Let's move on. So here's a couple that I get pretty regularly. I get emails saying, why did I get a deduction? All you commented, and I usually just say, this is my comment. When I give you a 0 on an assignment because you didn't turn in a PDF, I give you a 0 and I say, submit one PDF. If you turn it in on Tuesday and it's not a PDF, what happens? You get what was that? So is that it or is that it? Think about it for a minute. This is an important question. So yeah, I give you a 0 and then I send this response to you. What is your next move? You could email me, and I'm saying my expectation is that you don't email me because we've talked about this from the very beginning. So that's not really a good response, but is there any other response?
Well, I don't know about this answer, but can they resubmit it as a PDF?
Absolutely. And that's what you want to do, because instead of a 0, you get a what? No, you wouldn't get a 25. If you turn it on Tuesday and you turn in something other than a PDF, you get a 0. And then I tell you, submit it as a PDF. Now you're turning it in late and you're going to get 1 point. And that 1 point is going to tell me that you did the assignment, so you're not going to get an additional deduction on class participation. And then I'm going to encourage you, just like I'm doing now, which I've done over and over and over. What am I going to encourage you to do? If this is you and you turned in a Word document and you got a 0 and I sent you this comment, what would you encourage that student to do? Turn it in on Friday. Hello? That's the solution. So this is a common email that I get, and I'm addressing it now, and I'll put it in, I'm going to summarize this as, this is not an email I expect to get. This is specifically an instruction that it starts from the very beginning. 99% of you never have a problem with this. But I get a few emails about this. So this is another one that I get commonly. Do you guys know the difference between a screenshot and a picture of a screen?
Yeah, the pictures with the phone.
Yeah, and it's not acceptable, and it will get you deductions. It won't get you a 0, but you'll get deductions, and you'll get a comment saying you need to learn how to take screenshots. Look, screenshots are super easy. Every device is different. I just took one. That's a screenshot. I mean, I could, if I wanted to, I could watch this. I think I can do this. I could take a picture of my screen. And what does that look like? I think I should be able to show you that now. So that's a picture of my screen, and that's a screenshot. One of the goals in this course, one of the goals of the University of Houston at the Bauer College of Business is to teach you how to become an effective communicator. and it's 2022, and we use these devices, all these devices, all the time. And so one of the things I just require, it's basically a minimal requirement, is that you learn how to take a screenshot. If you take pictures of your screen and you use that, you'll get a deduction, and that's one that I don't expect to get an email about. Okay? I got several emails about that this week. Again, 97% of you get that, and that's not a problem, but the ones that do, I'm sorry we have to even talk about it. Okay, let's see. Any other common questions? So that question was about, I got a 0, or, this question was, I got a deduction or I got a 0. Am I out of luck? And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get full points, but do the assignment because you don't want to get the deduction from class participation. So that's pretty much it. This question was a good one. I'm working on this. Has anybody had gotten this error message? So one student has this, and we covered what would you do if you have this error message, and you get the error message that says we're experiencing technical difficulties. What would you do if you got that error message? Take a screenshot and send it to me. Would that be the first thing you would do?
Reload the page?
Yeah, I'd say before you send me an email, please reload the page. What else might you try?
Try a different computer?
Maybe try a different device. And if it doesn't do it on that new device, it's something with your device. That's a good one. I'd rather you do that than send me an email, because I'd really not rather be the technical troubleshooter at that point. Now, the student that brought this to my attention today, number 2 or 3 on my list, is to troubleshoot this, which means I'm going to call my tech team. I'm going to show them the plan. I'm going to show them exactly how to replicate this error, because we did it. This student came to me after class, showed it to me, and I'm like, I don't know why it's doing that. We have to figure it out. But 90% of the time, this is something that can be solved by either refreshing your page, clearing your cache, trying a different browser, or using a different device. I don't know what causes this, but if you ever get this one and it's 1 a.m, don't send me an email hoping I can get back to you to fix it by the time you need access. You try all those things, and if you still get this, and another thing that usually helps is just waiting. Wait, turn your computer off. That's what I asked this student to do, reboot your computer, but that still didn't work. He's got some issue going on. Okay, so doesn't happen very often, but whenever it does, whether it's in BayRock Planning Portal or Money Study Group, if you get an error, I would do those things first, those basic things that you would normally do. Refresh the page, clear your cache, reboot your computer, try a different device. Okay? Okay, any other questions, comments, or concerns about the way your questions are handled in this course moving forward? All right, so let me do a quick review of what's coming. So I'm going to try to find on this page this stuff. So where are we now? This week we're doing bargaining and negotiating. Starting next week, we're going to do insurance. And then we're going to do investing. So we've got a lot of investing coming. Investing, by the way, is the most popular topic in this course. I'm trying to just highlight what's coming so you can see it while I'm talking about it. So next week, not this week, but next week, we're going to spend some time on insurance. When we talk about financial planning, there are 7 essential elements. One is retirement planning. One is risk management, which means insurance. And then there's estate planning, education funding or education planning, and then there's tax planning, and then investment planning, and cash flow. All of those things you're going to get exposed to in your financial plan and in this course. Your capstone, which comes last, is going to integrate all of these pieces of financial planning. But one of them is risk management, insurance. We could spend an entire semester on insurance, but we're going to spend one, maybe 1.5 weeks. My goal is very simply to help you become an informed consumer of insurance, because insurance is a big part of your budget. And I want to make sure you understand enough about insurance so that you can take advantage of making good decisions. So I'm going to do my best. If there's one thing I'm an expert in, it's insurance. I have a lot of letters after my name, and most of them relate to insurance designations. I teach insurance at the CFP program at Rice for people who are studying to become certified financial planners. So my point is, I know way more about insurance than I could ever teach you in a week, but I'm going to do my best to pick out some things that I think will be very helpful for you. One of them is we're going to take a look at car insurance, which is like maybe the most common type of insurance that you should understand. And your homework assignment will be to do a quote, to get a quote on your car insurance so that you get to learn how the different coverages work. So that's coming next week. The week after that, we're going to get into investing. I'm going to teach you 4 investment strategies that are designed to help you maximize returns and minimize risk. I'm also going to teach you about the perfect investment, which I'll just tell you right now is the company match in your 401k. So my goal is to help you walk out of this classroom with a really high level of confidence, knowing that when you start your job after you graduate, you will know exactly what to do on day one to implement these 4 investment strategies that I'm going to teach you. The 4 investment strategies are, number 1, diversification. You've heard of it. I'm going to teach you what it is and how it works and why it matters. Number 2, asset allocation. You've heard of it. I'm going to teach you what it is, how it works, and why it's the most important determinant of your portfolio's returns. Asset allocation's number 2. You've heard of all of these. Number 3, dollar cost averaging. You've heard of it, but you've never had it taught to you the way I'm going to teach it to you, I promise. And you're going to understand it, and you're going to know why I believe dollar cost averaging is the most powerful investment strategy available to people in your age group. You're going to understand it, and you're going to know how to put it into practice for your investment portfolio. Number 4 is portfolio rebalancing. You've heard of it. I'm just going to teach you how it works in the context of the other 3 investment strategies. All 4 of these investment strategies are designed to help you maximize return and minimize risk. You don't want to miss what you're going to learn in these upcoming lectures and weeks and assignments. It's all fit together so you can actually see how it works in your financial plan. But the real key in the next few weeks is for you to understand some of the things that we're going to talk about during the lectures. So you'll get exposure in Money Study Group, you'll get practice in the financial planning portal, and you'll get philosophy from me in class. And it's all kind of going to help bring it together for you. So when we talk about investing, again, the most popular topic in this course, you're going to want to be paying attention and taking some notes. So the week after that, we're going to take the investment strategies to the next level. The second law of personal finance in this course, do you remember what it is? There are 3 laws of personal finance: the law of spending and saving. Save more than you spend so you can save more for what matters most. That's number 1. Number 2 is the law of tax-advantaged investing. The IRS makes the rules. Your job is to take advantage of them. And I'm going to teach you how to do that by teaching you about types of accounts. You can have awesome returns in your investments, but if they're in the wrong types of accounts, it's going to cost you in terms of taxes. So I'm going to make that pretty easy for you to understand. by teaching you about types of accounts and what we call in the business tax allocation, and how you can allocate your investing or your investment accounts into the right types of accounts so that you have good tax allocation in addition to the right investment strategies that are designed to help you maximize returns and minimize risk. So tax advantaged investing is coming in like 3 weeks. And then we're going to get to the capstone assignment. You're going to have 2 weeks to put together your capstone assignment. And really, every week you're working on your capstone assignment, okay? Just keep in mind that each of these assignments is a part of your capstone assignment. Remember the Ashley rule? Remember her question? Best question of the semester. Professor Munchbach, please take a look at my week 5 assignment and tell me if I'm missing anything, because I'm about to work on assignment number 6, and I know that what I did in assignment number 5 is going to really impact assignment number 6, right? That's how this course works. And when we talk about the capstone, that's how all of these assignments work. So if you just keep up, you will be building your capstone. And by the time you do that assignment worth 200 points, it'll be very easy. It's not going to be extra work. It's just a matter of maybe tweaking a few things to make sure that, you got your spending plan right, you got your tax advantaged accounts right, and you got your asset allocation right, and all the things I'm going to teach you in the next few weeks that are going to be built into those assignments, they will all come together. And when you do your capstone assignment, everything will come together for you. That's my hope, and that's what usually happens if you keep up with your assignments. Does that make sense? So that's a preview. So we covered student questions. We covered a preview of what's coming. Now it's time to get to today's lesson. And as usual, we're almost out of time. That's crazy. What time do you guys want to walk out of here?
12:45.
You really gonna give me till 12:45? Everybody good with that? I mean, I try to usually let you go a little early, but we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. That's really what this lesson is about. Now, I want to ask you guys, do you think bargaining and negotiating is a topic you would expect to learn and study in a course on personal finance? Who says yes? In some capacity, yes. But out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I'd say 10, 2 say, yeah, this is a topic. Ashley didn't vote because she felt like it would be wrong to vote since she's not really part of this class. I just got to tell you, Ashley didn't vote. Here's what I think. So most people say, no, this is really not a personal finance topic, and that's true. It's probably not. But in the past, Dave Ramsey would teach this section, and I don't know how you feel about Dave Ramsey. Do you guys know Dave Ramsey? Do you like and love Dave Ramsey? Like, questionable? Gabe's a little questionable. So Dave Ramsey's done some great things. I don't want to talk bad about him, especially on the internet, because I could get canceled maybe, or whatever bad could happen when you even say Dave Ramsey's name in a bad context. It's not a bad context, but truly, I would get tired of listening to me, and I get tired of listening to Dave. But when Dave taught this lesson on bargaining and negotiating, he gets so excited that I loved watching him talk about bargaining and negotiating. So since he was part of this course for so long, I wanted to keep Dave and his memory alive. Dave is still alive and well, but sorry about that. But anyways, I always liked Dave gets so excited about bargaining and negotiating. One of the things I discovered about myself is I'm like Dave. When it comes to this topic, I'm like Dave. So I'm going to ask you a question, whether you're on the internet or you're in this actual room. I'm going to say on this side of the room, this is my side of the room. This is the side of the room where we would all go if we said, hey, I love to bargain and negotiate. It's a part of life. I think everything's negotiable. It's like a sport. I have no problem bargaining and negotiating. How many of you are on this side of the room? Only 2. 3? Questionable. So we have 2, 3 counting me, that are on this side of the room. Ashley's not voting again. So how about the rest of you who are like I know Ashley is, because we had this conversation earlier, like my wife Connie. Bargaining and negotiating, it's kind of awkward. I don't enjoy it. It's not fun. I don't feel like I'm good at it. It's just, I don't want to do it. How many of you are like that on this side of the room? Thank you. Thank you. So how many of you are just not going to vote no matter what? Come on, you got to vote. Which side of the room are you on? Who's on this side? Oh, you guys, you didn't raise your hand last time. Who's on this side? Okay, so the crowd just got smaller on this side. But the truth is, this whole lesson is designed for you. Those of you who are on this side, my goal is to help you understand that if you learn a few basic skills about bargaining and negotiating, you can move the needle on your life in a way that, well, once you understand how it works and feel more comfortable with it, you'll want to do a little bit of bargaining and negotiating. Is fair enough? I'm going to try to convince you. Do you have any comments so far? Any fears or trepidations you want to talk about? They do call me the Dr. Phil of financial planning because I like to ask those kinds of questions. So we're going to talk about that. We've got the room separated now. You know which side you're on. If you're like me and you love to bargain and negotiate, or you're like my wife Connie and Ashley and you don't really feel comfortable, it's kind of awkward and it's not fun. So now here's the question. Let's assume that everyone in this group is earning the same amount of money. Let's say it's $100,000. We're not just earning the same, but we're actually spending the same amount of money on the same items. My question is, on a $100,000 annual spend, what percentage would you think, and I know this is a totally made up percentage, it's just a guess, but if you had to guess, what percentage would you say that those of us on this side of the room who bargain and negotiate with the best of them, what percentage would you say we're ahead of the game in terms of that $100,000 spend? In other words, if we all spend $100,000, if I'm bargaining and negotiating, I'm getting a better deal. That's my assumption. My question is, if I'm getting a better deal, is it worth it? And to know if it's worth it, what is the percentage? How much of a better deal am I getting on an aggregate of everything I'm spending of $100,000?
Probably 30%.
Ethan said 30%. That's the highest number I've heard today. 10 to 20% was the range earlier, but 30%. Tell me why you think 30%. You got to be thinking about some specific things that will move the needle on that $100,000 spend. What are you thinking?
Well, for example, like you buy a car and they try and upsell you on a bunch of stuff, and you know to bargain and negotiate those things. You wouldn't be spending like an extra bunch of money. You're saving. It could be probably well over 50%, but overall, if you keep that mindset with a whole bunch of other things, like maybe a house or whatever, you're gonna stretch your dollar a lot.
Yeah.
By saying, "Oh, I don't need all of this extra stuff," and then you save that.
That's brilliant. So before I summarize or try to summarize what Ethan said, I see some expression on your face, Gabe. Like, did you have something you wanted to? Oh, I'm sorry. What's your name? Daniel. Daniel. I don't know why I called you Gabe. Who's Gabe? Gabe's not here. I know a Gabe. We have a Gabe. I'm sorry, Daniel. I knew that, Daniel. You're one of my first and favorites. So you had an expression like you had something that maybe.
I just looked confused with what your question was. You said
Yeah.
$100,000.
Yeah.
How much of that would you bargain?
No. So pay attention. I know you were.
I was,
But Ethan understood, right? We're all spending $100,000. Daniel's confused, so I'm going to help clarify. We're all spending $100,000. We're all buying the same thing, but part of us, the ones who bargain and negotiate, we're bargaining and negotiating. My question is, what percentage of benefit are we getting that you're missing out on? If we bargain and negotiate, and if you don't, And Ethan's answer was this. He said, hey, he said 30% is the percentage. He said, so for example, if you buy a car and you don't bargain or negotiate, you just buy what they sell you, you're going to give them whatever they ask for the car, when in fact it's pretty easy to get them to come down. Typically, that was yesterday, not today, with COVID and supply chain and all the stuff that's affecting cars, but that's only going to last a minute. But Ethan's point was, typically when you buy a car, you can pay what they're asking, or you can get them to come down 10% easy, typically. And he went further. He said, plus they're going to add on a bunch of stuff like the warranty and some other things. When I bought my last car, it's a 2015 Lexus. I always buy Lexus. I'm a master mechanic, or I used to be, so I know cars. And when I bought this car, they had me this close to buying the warranty because they said this car has so many computer components on it. If any of them break, it's pretty expensive. It's a no-brainer, they said. And I thought about it, and I asked them, how much would it cost to fix it, knowing I didn't have the skills to fix it. And it was pretty expensive. But at the end of the day, it was like the probabilities, because it's a Lexus, I can pay them now, or I can take a chance and maybe have to pay them later. But then there's the drivetrain warranty. I could have spent another $1,000, $1,200 in case the transmission went bad or the engine went bad. Hello, it's a Lexus. I buy them with 100,000 miles because the price drops. So I bargain and negotiate for cars. And Ethan's point was, if you buy everything they try to sell you versus if you use some logic and you think it through and you say no and you get a better price, he says 30%. Same's true for a house and all the extras they might sell you. I don't know that 30% is reasonable. I'm not here to say it is or not. But there is a percentage somewhere that is going to set us apart for those of us who bargain and negotiate. So does it make sense now, Daniel?
I mean, there's just not many things to negotiate with on a daily. Like, besides a house and car.
So Daniel, I wish you could see his face. He's like, it's Ruth, yes?
I feel like there is some things, like even with clothing, you don't necessarily, like there's people who buy full price and there's people that wait to buy that same item at Rob's or Burlington, and it's the
That's
same
not
quality.
negotiating. That's just
But
or
that's
even
why-
like
Oh.
waiting to buy something.
For example, like, well, that is, like, if you wait for, some items will go on sale, depending on, like, the turnover for that item, like.
I wish you were here listening to this conversation. I'll tell you about it in just a minute. It's fascinating.
As the years go on, that's basically like negotiating if you wait to buy that item, when you know it's gonna go on sale, the price will depreciate.
Man, I wish I would have brought a record, like a microphone. I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring a microphone because everybody on.
My impatience, like I just buy whatever. Like, I like it, I buy it. $100 is right there. I'm not rich, but I'm just like, I don't have time to. My time can be allocated elsewhere instead of having to wait or negotiate.
So this is awesome. This is okay. You're missing it.
The thing I negotiate is with like cars. Like I buy like cash cars. Like my last car was like $17,000 cash. The guy wanted 17. I told him, dude, I'm in school. I'll give you 15. He's like, no, 15, 500. And I was like, all right, whatever. Like we sat there, just we didn't waste anyone's time. Went to the bank, got the money. That's it. It was like a 1 hour deal.
What'd you pay him?
15,500.
And he was-
$50.
Right, but there's not much like there's no.
So besides cars and homes, Daniel is saying that's it. You should see his face. You should hear his argument.
Negotiate that.
The whole class is arguing with Daniel right now. Ruth started out.
What else to negotiate for? I don't
With the clothes, I agree with Ruth. You can literally just wait till, I don't know, get your nice jacket on summer and it's going to be on this time because everybody's going to be getting jeans or stuff. It's just a matter of waiting.
see other bargain hunters.
So basically, this argument, if you want to call it that, dialogue is really what it is. It's boiled down to the definition of bargaining and negotiating. Daniel is proposing that, you can bargain. Excuse me, I'm all stuffed up. Daniel is saying that you can bargain and negotiate on cars and houses, and that's about it. But then the conversation started about, well, wait a minute. If you wait, you can save a lot of money by buying the clothes that are not on sale now that are going to be on sale in 10 minutes, right? Or what? What were you going to say, Ruth? What was your argument? You were the one that brought up clothes.
Yeah, it's basically like anything that, okay, so there's things that you could find at, yeah, even off-road. Like, there's things that you could find, what's it, furniture store?
Like functionalities, you can find the same functionality elsewhere for a cheaper price.
Okay.
For
The place where you buy, what's the furniture? I forgot the name.
there's a lot of places to buy furniture.
If you find some, an item that you like, you could just get that same item, at Ross later when it, like.
Yeah.
when it's more.
Oh, I'm shocked now.
So Daniel is saying it's a long shot to wait for that thing. He wants it. He's going to buy it.
Like I've seen, I have like a little bench in my room, where I sit, and I really like that. I really liked it. It's even like, okay, I really liked it at Ross. I get like, for example, I liked it at Ross, but then I saw the same bench for a better price at Didi's. It was like, and it was like it was like $20 less, and it was the same thing. So
I think it all comes down to opportunity cost.
that's bargaining. You know,
Yeah.
like you look for the better option, and you're looking for the better thing.
In this case,
Sir,
I would
it's
agree
the
with
same-
Daniel,
but
that's not
it's the same
necessarily
quality.
bargaining so much as it is
That's just
like.
an example.
I'd rather spend whatever time you were looking for that on like doing something else. Personally, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just a no nonsense kind of guy.
So it boils down, this conversation, this dialogue has boiled down to Daniel is a no-nonsense kind of guy. He doesn't want to mess around with waiting for something to go on sale. He doesn't want to go searching for a better deal. He just doesn't have time. He's got better things to do with his life. Fair enough, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Except for cars.
except for cars, because
Feature, you know, 'cause that's a pretty big.
Yeah, there's things that
I'll buy a jacket for
can't,
$100, but I
wait
wouldn't buy
for,
like
but
something.
there's things that you can't.
Well, like for
You guys-
example, there's like Lexington, you can buy the car that they offer, at the price that they offered.
I've never bought a new car like that. I've never bought a car. I've never had bought a new car. So like I've gone with my sister actually recently. They'll bring the price down, but she wanted to.
Yeah.
Like, my sister's kind of frugal. But she has a good
she's
car.
kind of frugal. She probably bargains and negotiates.
Yeah,
Oh,
God.
that's why you don't like to do it, because it makes you feel like
we
your
spent
sister.
4 hours there, walked out with nothing because they didn't give her. She didn't get the price she wanted.
And you felt like that was an absolute waste of
It
time.
absolutely was. Good thing it was on winter break. So
And she felt like, hey, they didn't want to negotiate. I'll move on.
and she didn't have a car, so I drove. So I spent my time.
Oh, because you're a good brother,
That's right.
good man.
There's not, but like I said,
I love this conversation. I wish you guys were here, but you're not. You're missing it because I don't have a microphone to put out in the audience, and they're just going at it,
yeah.
and it's pretty cool.
I just don't.
So like,
I would use
how long did you spend
60% of
negotiating with that guy to reduce it by $150?
It was literally so for us. Cash is king. You go and you show.
Say that again, Ruth. That sounded very important.
That at the end of the day, I would be using 60% of my income, while you'd be using 100%. And that's the difference.
So that would be a 40% needle movement, right? You're saying that at the end of the year, you've spent $60,000 because you waited, you searched, you researched, you bought on sale, you found bargains, and Daniel's like, no, I don't have time for that. You're saying, okay, well, that costs you 40 grand, 40%.
But that's what I'm saying. There's not much thing. I literally just only buy food.
Yeah.
I buy clothes once every 2 years.
So, Daniel, your basic point is there ain't that much stuff to
There's not much
negotiate.
bargain,
Yeah. So that brings us to the next part of this. By the way, I got to tell you what about the fish. Do you guys know about the fish? Were you curious about why I have a picture of fish? Or did you think I was just a random picture?
To maybe a farmer's market where you get, I don't know, plenty of something and I don't know.
So
get a very-
farmer's market or fish market, either way. So the question is, what is the fish about? Have you ever heard the word lagniappe? No? So lagniappe is, I think it's a French word, and what it means is a little extra. And it came from the fish market. So if you went to the fish market and you bought a barrel of fish, they put it on the scale and it costs so much per pound or per barrel, but they measure it out and they give you the measure that you're supposed to get for the price that you've agreed to pay. Lagniappe comes from the idea and this culture where you find a merchant, you find a seller, you find a business owner who wants you to know that they appreciate your business, and their way of negotiating with you to keep your business forever and ever so that you come back to them next time you need fish is they throw a little lagniappe at you. What do you think? A little lagniappe? A little extra. A little extra. Yeah. And so, if you're maybe, I don't know how lagniappe works in every culture, but I know this. Lagniappe is something that can be bargained for from either side of the table. So, for example, if you come to my market and I'm selling you fish and you give me that look like, come on, man, throw a little extra on there for me. What could I do as the guy who's measuring your fish? What could I? Daniel would say it's not even worth asking.
I think as a true capitalist, you would just not give more.
So he says, and this is a good point, he says as a true capitalist, I just would not give them more because that's what they bought, that's what they paid for. But I'm telling you as a true business owner, I'm always giving lagniappe because I know the next guy, there's a lot of competition, and I know if I can give you extra value, which I can do, I want you to know I'm giving you extra value. I'm giving you lagniappe because I appreciate your business. I want you to tell your friends about me. So Daniel says capitalists wouldn't do that because that doesn't make sense from a business
Right now
model.
with tangible goods, but like with services, usually, yeah, like we used to have like our family mechanic. My dad would always throw more, and so every time we caught him, he beat
Yeah.
him. So that's like services, but not like tangible goods. My balance sheet might be off later on.
Yeah, your balance sheet will be off later on. Unless you're like Lay's potato chips, they didn't raise the price. What'd they do? They put fewer chips in the bag. That's what's happening to us every day because we buy stuff at the store. But when you're dealing with somebody who you're negotiating with, even if it's a product, an actual measurable thing like fish or pizza or cheese on your pizza, I'm just saying to Daniel, there's what Aiden said in the earlier class. He said, he's an entrepreneur guy. And his point was, you're always negotiating everything. And that's what I believe. That's what I agree with. So when it comes to this picture of fish, the idea is lagniappe is throwing on a little extra, whatever it is. And I'm saying to you, Daniel, you can ask for it. You can say, hey, that's not good enough. And just be quiet and see what happens. And chances are they're going to throw a little lagniappe on there. Daniel says that won't work in a capitalist society, but I'm telling you, it works almost all the time, depending on what it is you're buying. So what are some things you definitely know you can negotiate that Daniel may not have thought of? Bargain or negotiate?
Well, in my experience, I have done it at farmers market.
Farmers market?
Where, for example, it's not that I'm paying less, but sometimes I'm getting, I don't know, 2 of different things, 2 bags of orange and 1 apple. They give me a discount on the apple.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm
Yeah.
getting more, but I'm getting a discount on something that I'm going to buy anyways.
Yep. So at the farmer's market, because you buy everything from the same vendor, you might get your apples and oranges and you're going to get a bit of a discount because you're buying more stuff from the same vendor. Daniel would say that's not really bargaining and negotiating. Just go to HEB.
Your apples, everything's there.
Yeah.
Organic on farmers market.
Too. I think that.
Why do you say it doesn't matter?
It's just an apple, like, why does it matter if it's like, you can just go and get easier at like HEB, you
That's
don't
right.
have to go out of your way.
Yeah. So yeah, I would agree. If you're dealing with an apple at HEB versus the farmer's market, the margin's not that big. But if you're dealing with an Apple computer,
I think it often down to preference at that point. Like she likes shopping at, I don't know what farmers market is, but I go to the local HEB. I just.
yeah, me too. I was there Sunday, and they had pork butt roasts on sale for 97 cents a pound. I wait for that though, so I can't negotiate that. But like Ruth said, I wait for that because you know why? My wife bought me a Traeger smoker. Do you guys know what a Traeger pellet smoker is? It's this big barbecue thing. It smokes meat. It uses wood pellets, but it's big. And I like to smoke 4 of those roasts. It takes like 24 hours to do it. So I just buy them when they're on sale.
So if you want it the week that it's not on sale, you won't buy it?
I'll wait because
It's like,
do you know how much you can freeze it? So you smoke it, you put it in freezer bags and you freeze it. So if you're smart, like Ruth, and I know this is a controversial thing for you, Daniel, but the point is if you're patient, if you take your time and if you approach this as if, your definition of bargaining and negotiating will never fit this paradigm. But for us who think of the way of living like your sister, to be frugal, like Aiden said this morning, he said, number 1, everything's negotiable. Number 2 is the number 1 negotiation you're ever going to have is with yourself. Because it's with yourself you have to decide, is it worth waiting for if it can move the needle on my financial life? Or am I just not going to spend my time and effort doing this whole process because it's not worth it to me because I want what I want when I want it? You see what I'm saying? That's kind of one of the points of this. Another thing I would add that Aiden didn't say, he said everything's negotiable. You're negotiating with yourself more than anyone. And number 3 is most of the stuff we buy it because we want it. We don't need it. We want it. And we want it when we want it. And a lot of the things we buy to impress people we don't even know. So most of the time, the expensive part of consumerism is looking good and not looking bad. And when it comes to clothes, that's for sure true. It comes in, it's true with cars. Most of my friends buy BMWs without realizing how expensive they are to fix and how much maintenance they need. That's why I buy Lexuses. They're very low in maintenance. They're very easy. They keep their value. They run forever. No BMW does that. And they're luxury. So, I got a lot of friends that like Beamers, great, but I'm like, that's the last car I would ever recommend you buy if you're smart about your money. Now, if you don't care, if you just want what you want, absolutely buy the Beamer. But if you want the value and you want to basically move the needle on your financial life, then all of these choices start to come together and they create some kind of gap in terms of a benefit. Like Ethan said 30%, Ruth said 40%. Earlier today, we were 10 to 20%. I don't know what the number is. But my point is, when you think about bargaining and negotiating, especially with yourself, there are a few basic rules, boundaries, and limitations that you should understand and you should start to experiment with. And that's your assignment this week, is you're going to experiment a little bit with bargaining and negotiating. You're going to think about it and you're going to look for ways you can actually try to practice bargaining and negotiating. So before I let you go, let me just tell you a couple of things that are in your lesson this week. These are my top 7. You will have your own top 7. But I'm going to start with silence is golden, so shut up. I won't even get through all of these because we're out of time, aren't we? You know what? Do you want me to go through these or you just want to do the homework? Do the second one. I'm sorry I kept you so late. You're free to roam around the nation. Thank you. If you want to stay, I'll be happy to stay and go over these, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do them to the camera, and then you can watch this Zoom meeting. I'll post this in the playlist, and you can scrub all the way to the end, okay? Is that cool? That works? So this will be on YouTube in your playlist, and you'll want to watch the last few minutes. So here we go. This is me talking to myself, to my students who are leaving. See you next week. Thanks for your help today, Ethan. If you guys have questions, I'll answer them before I do my little monologue here, but otherwise I'm going to do my monologue and you can watch. Okay, so these are my top 7. They don't have to be yours. You'll do some homework this week and you'll come up with your own. But these are mine. I'm going to start with number 6. Silence is golden, so shut up. And I talked about these fish and the idea of lanyap. Yes, sir, Ethan.
Okay, so I turned the assignment in Friday, but I did it incorrectly.
Yep.
Can I resubmit
Absolutely.
it 21?
Well,
I
if
found
you
it
turn it,
was
you turn it in Friday, and what was your problem with it? Did you not have your
So what I
tabs?
did was I did the expenses tab, and I didn't do any of like the add accounts on
Yeah.
the phone and all that.
So you got to turn it in by Tuesday to get. You got to resubmit it on Tuesday by the due date to get all the points.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get like all 50 or 60 yet, but would I get?
You turned it in Friday.
Yeah, and I didn't.
That's
back
a
and-
strange thing.
Yeah, I didn't go back and look, so I got 20 out of 50.
Yeah, you're going to get 20. That's it.
Okay.
But you won't get deductions for the class
That's what I was
participation.
wondering.
Yeah, man. Next time, check. I'm sorry about that.
No. I didn't check that.
All right. Hey, do we have another class in this room starting now? If we do, I won't be able to finish my little monologue. I'm going to keep going. See you next week. So back to the lanyap. If you pretend you're buying fish at the market and they measure it out and they put it there and you look at the buyer and you just give them kind of a him or her. You give them kind of a, you know what, come on, throw a little more on. Or you could say, that's not good enough. That's the key words here. That's not good enough. In a negotiation, even if you don't like to negotiate and you feel like bargaining is not worth your time or it's awkward or whatever, just say those words. That's just not good enough. And then shut up and let silence do its work. What do you think is going to happen if you say that and you're in a negotiation? Typically what happens is the other person has to come up with like a counteroffer. And so that's one of my top 7. Timing, we talked about, or you didn't get to hear, but we heard in the class dialogue about timing, where if you just wait, something's going to go on sale. When it's hot off the press, it's a premium. Like if you buy a brand new car, it's going to be more expensive and it's going to depreciate hugely. So if you're willing to wait, timing is really important. If you're trying to buy a car right now because of the supply and demand issues or a house, you're going to pay a premium. So I'm telling you, if you wait, if you use timing to your advantage, you're going to find a time when it's much more advantageous to you. And I think that's part of the bargaining and negotiating process. You don't have to buy anything right now today, usually. Let's see, I'm going to work up from the bottom. Cash is king in bargaining. So again, Dave Ramsey used to teach this course, and it's kind of interesting because he thought of cash as the green stuff, like $100 bills. And in his example, he used $100 bills to buy a dryer or washing machine. And he went into a store and he laid down the $100 bills as cash. And his point was that the seller was willing to negotiate because he had cash. Frankly, I don't think that's true anymore, but the bottom line is purchasing power is somewhat powerful. So I used to be a State Farm agent, and State Farm Bank was like the 5th largest lender of automobiles in the country, which means we did a ton of car loans. And I would tell my clients, before you buy a car, let's go find one that you like, figure out the right price for it, and let me cut you a check. You'll be pre-approved and with a check in your hand, a certified check. You take that to the dealer and you have now basically cash purchasing power, and that will move the needle typically in a negotiation if you have the purchasing power right now without any delays. So cash is king. The green stuff is kind of out, but purchasing power is always a good negotiating tool. So do that. Daniel said earlier that when he buys a car, he saves his money and he pays cash. That's brilliant. That's one way you can save money. And you exercise what I call the walkaway muscle, which means it's basically patience. The next two, practicing the discipline of patience and developing a walkaway muscle. In any negotiation, if you're in love with the thing you're negotiating over, the other person's going to know it, and you're not going to have a very good position of negotiating or bargaining. So you got to exercise your walkaway muscle. Earlier, Aiden said the number one thing to know about negotiating is you're negotiating against yourself, and that's true. And the walkaway muscle, got this from, I think, Dave Ramsey, but it is definitely one of my top 7 tips, tools, and things to learn about negotiating if you want to move the needle on your life. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I do believe, number 1, bargain and negotiate everything, which is what Aiden said earlier today. And I think it's a mindset. So if you think nothing is negotiable, then you're not going to negotiate anything. But if you think everything's negotiable, you're going to try and negotiate pretty much everything. Neither are true. Not everything's negotiable, but most things are. And so just go through your life knowing that when you get the bill on your Wi-Fi and it's really high, you can call Comcast and tell them that's not good enough and see what happens. So your homework assignment this week is to do a little thinking and a little practicing to see what you might come up with for things that you could bargain or negotiate. I hope you have fun with it. And you'll also watch a video. My friend Ramit Sethi does, I think this video's had like 1 million views. I got to meet Ramit at a conference a while back, but he does an interview about how to negotiate for a job or a raise. It's a great interview. You're going to watch that. You're going to do an article, and that's your homework assignment. So I'll post that in Blackboard later today. Thanks for watching. Sorry it went so long. I am now going to end the broadcast, finishing